Japan earthquake, nuclear catastrophe. The catastrophe at Japan's stricken nuclear complex is now worse than 3 Mile Island, experts say. An explosion at Unit 4 at the Fukushima nuclear plant complex opened 2 large holes in the structure housing spent nuclear fuel rods in a large pool. Japanese officials told the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, that the spent fuel storage area had caught fire and that radioactivity was being released directly into the atmosphere. The IAEA also said that another explosion at the plant, this one within Unit 2, may have affected the integrity of its primary containment vessel. So that means radioactivity could be leaking from the containment vessel. France's Nuclear Safety Authority, ASN, said the disaster ranks as a level 6 on the international scale of 1 to 7. Level 7 was used only once for Chernobyl in Ukraine in 1986. The 1979 accident at 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania was rated a level 5. It is very clear that we are at level 6. This is a major catastrophe, and this event is now closer to a level 6, and it may unfortunately reach a level 7, added David Albright, head of the Institute for Science and International Security in Washington, D.C. The ongoing crisis at Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant has turned into what one analyst calls a slow-moving nightmare, with fires, leaks of poisonous radiation, and mass evacuations. With events shifting so quickly, and a sometimes confusing succession of announcements coming from authorities, it can be hard to get a clear sense of exactly what's happening, and of what to expect going forward. So, what's at the root of the problem? Friday's earthquake and tsunami caused power outages across northern Japan, including at the plant, which comprises 6 separate reactors. That in turn caused a failure of the reactor's cooling systems, which are needed to keep the nuclear fuel from overheating, melting down, and or triggering an explosion, releasing poisonous radiation into the atmosphere. The explosion that caused the containment vessel covering the number 2 reactor to crack has released into the air a surge of radiation 800 times more intense than the recommended hourly exposure limit in Japan. 1/3 of the fuel rods at the reactor were reportedly damaged. In addition, another powerful explosion threw a 26-foot wide hole in the side of number 4 reactor, causing fires to break out and a pool containing spent fuel rods to begin dangerously overheating. The Japanese military tried to use helicopters to dump water from the air to cool the number 4 reactor, but that plan was abandoned after a 3rd explosion, this one damaging the roof and cooling system of the number 3 reactor, because it would have meant flying a helicopter into radioactive steam. Water was also being poured into the numbers 5 and 6 reactors, suggesting that essentially the entire plant could be at risk of overheating. In what appears to have been an understatement, the plant operator described the situation at the number 4 reactor as not so good. But in some ways, the rupture at the number 3 reactor is especially troubling because it's the only reactor that uses plutonium as part of its fuel mix. If absorbed into the bloodstream, plutonium can stay in the liver or bone marrow and cause cancer. How much of the surrounding area is likely to be affected by the radiation? The government has told the roughly 140,000 people who live within 18 miles of the plant to stay indoors, for whatever good that might be, but has said that people outside that zone can safely go outside. However, some experts have accused the Japanese authorities of underplaying the severity of the crisis. In other words, they're not really telling the whole truth. The U.S. Embassy has recommended that Americans within 50 miles of the plant evacuate the area or stay indoors. So far, Tokyo, 180 miles south of the plant, has recorded radiation levels only slightly above normal. Still, both France and Australia have urged their nationals throughout the country to leave, and many Tokyo residents have been staying indoors. What else can they do? In what experts describe as a last-ditch effort, police are hoping to use a water cannon, usually used to quell riots, to somehow cool the nuclear fuel. Officials have also proposed using boric acid, which can help slow nuclear reactions by absorbing neutrons. On Monday, 750 workers were withdrawn from the faculty, leaving a core of 50 to battle the crisis alone while exposing themselves to potentially deadly levels of radiation. But even those workers appeared to have been withdrawn after a surge in radiation caused by new explosions made the area too dangerous. What are the best and worst case scenarios? The best case scenario is that efforts to cool the fuel rods somehow succeed, and damage to the surrounding environment is limited to an area within approximately 15 miles of the plant. The worst is a full-scale meltdown of the reactors caused by overheating, which would release much larger amounts of radiation into the air than has yet occurred. In that case, the damage could potentially approach the level of the Soviet Union's 1986 Chernobyl disaster, for which estimates of deaths vary from 4,000 to close to 1 million. So how does the crisis rank in terms of nuclear plant accidents? On Saturday, Japanese authorities ranked the incident a level 4 on a 1 to 7 scale used to rank nuclear accidents. But things have gotten much worse since then. And France's nuclear authority said yes, it should be classified as a level 6. This is, again, a major catastrophe, and is turned into a rolling disaster, and is also a physical manifestation of the book of Revelation. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. Everything that must change quickly or rapidly, and for the better. These are more signs of the times. Again, Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. 8. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Revelation chapter 8. And when he had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. 2. And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. 3. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. 4. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. 5. And the angel took the censer, and filled it with fire of the altar, and cast it into the earth. And there were voices, and thunderings, and lightnings, and an earthquake. 6. And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. 7. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became as blood. 9. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, upon the fountains of waters. 11. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many humans died of the waters, because they were made bitter. 12. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. Yes, it's time. It's time for all these things to happen, for all prophecy to be fulfilled. And all these are more signs of the end times, transition days, which is a continuing day-by-day process of extraordinary changes happening all around the world.